You ever feel like the world is just poking you? Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your boss throws a passive-aggressive comment. A text that just ruins your mood. And before you know it, they're pulling your strings and you're dancing. But what if you didn't react? What if, instead of letting the world trigger you, you stayed still, calm, clear, in control? Because when you react to nothing, that's when you control everything. You ever notice how quickly we jump to action the moment we feel something? Someone says something sharp and our chest tightens. We get an email that feels off and suddenly we're defensive. Our heart rate goes up. We're typing a response before we've even taken a breath. That's what happens when we confuse emotions with instructions. But emotions, they're not commands. They're just data. Let me say that again. Emotions are data, not directives. What I mean by that is this: when something happens and you feel triggered, angry, hurt, anxious, that's information. That's your system telling you something is going on. But it doesn't mean you have to do something about it right away. You don't have to lash out. You don't have to retreat. You don't have to respond. That feeling is just a notification, not a demand. But here's the trap most of us fall into. We treat our emotions like they're gospel. Like if I feel disrespected, it means I was disrespected. If I feel offended, someone must have meant to hurt me. And that story, that interpretation, it sends us into reaction mode. We're no longer responding from truth. We're reacting from a narrative we created in a split second. So pause. Learn to build in that moment of space between what you feel and what you do about it. Because in that space, that's where your power lives. That's where control exists. Not out in the chaos, but in the stillness, right between stimulus and response. Now, I'm not saying ignore your emotions. This isn't about bottling things up. It's not about pretending you're fine when you're not. That's not control. That's denial. What I'm saying is get curious instead of reactive. Sit with the discomfort long enough to understand it before you move on it. You feel anger. Ask why. Where's that coming from? Is it about this situation? Or is this stirring up something old or something deeper? You feel anxious. Okay? What's the fear underneath? Because when you slow down long enough to observe your emotions instead of obeying them, you start making decisions from clarity instead of chaos. Most people never get that far. They get hit with a feeling and they sprint straight into conflict, straight into arguments, bad texts, broken trust, burned bridges. Then later they say, I didn't mean to react that way. And maybe they didn't. But they never gave themselves the chance to mean anything else either. See, emotional control isn't about being numb. It's about being aware. It's about knowing when you're triggered. And having the discipline to not hand the wheel over to your feelings. Because feelings don't drive well. Not when they're flaring up in the moment. They're great messengers, but terrible drivers. And you, my friend, you're the one behind the wheel. Not your anger, not your fear, not your pride. You. So when someone tries to push your buttons, and trust me, they will, don't just ask, how do I feel? Ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me, and is it even true? Because not every emotional alert deserves a full body, full volume, full speed response. You can feel the heat and still choose not to touch the fire. You can feel the jab and still not swing back. You can feel the sting and still not let it write your story. Because when you understand that emotions are just signals, not orders, you stop being a puppet to your environment. You start stepping into leadership over yourself. And that, right there, is where control begins. That's where everything changes. Most people think silence means you've got nothing to say, that you're backing down, that you're weak. But the truth is, silence is often the strongest move in the room, because silence, that takes control, that takes restraint, that takes clarity. Anybody can pop off. Anybody can yell. Anybody can clap back with a clever comeback or a cutting remark. That's easy. That's emotional impulse. But staying silent when you could say something, that's power. It's knowing you have the words, but choosing not to use them just to prove a point. It's resisting the temptation to match someone's chaos with more chaos. That's when you stop reacting and start leading. Think about it. When tension rises, when someone comes at you with attitude or disrespect, they expect a reaction. In fact, they want one. They're testing to see if they can pull you out of your frame. Can they rattle you? Can they trigger you? Can they make you dance? But silence throws that whole plan off. It disrupts the cycle because suddenly you're not playing by their rules. You're not letting their storm become yours. You're not taking the bait. And that's uncomfortable for them, not for you. Now, I'm not saying you never speak up. There's a time for clarity, a time for boundaries, a time for assertiveness. But what I'm saying is this: not every moment requires a reply. Not every challenge needs a rebuttal. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing and let your peace speak louder than their noise. Because silence, when used with intention, isn't passive. It's surgical. It's not avoidance. It's awareness. It says, I see what's happening here. I'm not giving it my energy. People confuse presence with volume. They think the loudest one in the room is the most confident. But if you've ever really paid attention, the one in control is usually the one not flailing around to prove themselves. The one who listens more than they speak. The one who waits and watches. That's the one running the room. Silence gives you something else to time. Time to process. Time to observe. Time to think beyond just the surface of the moment. Because when you stay quiet, you're not just giving the other person room, you're giving yourself space. Space to choose your response instead of defaulting to reaction. We don't talk about that enough. How fast reactions steal your peace. How blurting out whatever we're thinking in the moment might feel satisfying, but it usually just adds fuel to the fire. But silence cools things down. It slows the game. It shifts the dynamic. And in that pause, you get your power back. You ever been in an argument where someone says something outrageous, hoping you'll blow up, and instead, you just breathe, you say nothing. You hold your posture. You stay grounded. You can feel the energy shift because you just told them without a word. You don't control me. That's the statement silence makes. Silence also gives you the upper hand because it's rare. Most people rush to speak, rush to defend, rush to be heard. But when you slow things down and choose intentional silence, people notice. They lean in. They wonder what you're thinking. And suddenly, your presence carries more weight, not less. See, silence doesn't mean you're checked out. It means you're tuned in. It means you're secure enough to not react, just to react. You don't need to win the moment. Because you're focused on winning the bigger picture. So the next time you feel that surge, that impulse to respond, to defend, to fire back, try stillness. Not from fear, but from strength. Not because you're avoiding the fight, but because you've already won it by not stepping into it. Silence isn't weakness. It's control. You ever wonder why some people push your buttons over and over again, like they've got your remote and know exactly which channel to flip to? It's because they do. They've studied you. They know what gets a rise out of you. They've watched what triggers you, what words spark you, what tone gets under your skin. And every time you react, you're handing them more control. People control you through your reactions. The hard truth is, most of us give away our power without even realizing it. We think we're just standing up for ourselves. We think we're defending our pride. We think we're keeping it real. But what we're really doing is giving the other person proof that they can get to us, that they can shift our mood, that they can press play, and we'll perform. They throw shade, we snap back. They roll their eyes, we raise our voice. They ignore us, we over-explain. And what just happened? We left our frame. We left our peace. We let them dictate how we feel, how we speak, how we show up. That's not strength. That's reaction. And reaction is surrender. It's just disguised. I need you to hear this. You don't have to attend every emotional invitation someone sends your way. Just because someone throws chaos at your feet doesn't mean you need to pick it up and carry it around. Not every comment deserves a reply. Not every insult needs to be defended. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stay grounded while they spin in circles trying to provoke you. Because that's what a lot of people are doing, provoking. Not because they're strong, but because they're trying to feel in control. They feel most in control when you feel out of control. So if they can get you flustered, if they can get you emotional, if they can get you loud, now they've got the upper hand. But when you don't give them that energy, when you stay calm, composed, steady, that's unsettling for them. Because now the game's over and you're not playing anymore. And I get it. Some of us were raised to believe that the loudest one wins. That if you don't react, you're being walked over. That silence equals weakness. But I'll tell you what's weaker: being predictable. Being so easy to trigger that anyone with an agenda can walk into your day and pull you out of peace in under a minute. That's what we've got to break. Because real strength, real control is being so grounded in yourself that no one can knock you off center. Not with their attitude, not with their passive aggressiveness, not with their sarcasm or silence or shade. You see it, you clock it, but you don't carry it. That's mastery. You want to know how much someone controls you? Look at how often they affect your mood. If your whole day shifts because of one person's energy, they're in charge, not you. If your peace is constantly at the mercy of what other people do or don't do, then you're not living in control. You're living in reaction. And the moment you realize that, that's when everything starts to shift. That's when you stop being the puppet and start becoming the one holding the strings. So next time someone tries to get under your skin, remember, they only win if you let them set the tone. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to match their energy. You don't have to fix how they feel about you. Your job isn't to be reactive. Your job is to be rooted. Rooted in who you are. Rooted in what you value. Rooted in the control you choose, not the chaos they offer. You can't stop people from trying to control you, but you can stop giving them the handles. There's something magnetic about someone who stays calm when everything else is spinning. You've seen it in the middle of a heated room, a tense meeting, or a conflict that's about to boil over. There's always that one person who doesn't flinch, doesn't raise their voice, doesn't break eye contact, and somehow their presence alone brings the temperature down. That's not just composure. That's leadership. That's control. Calm is a choice, and it's one of the most powerful choices you can make. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but I'm not naturally calm. I get it. Most of us weren't raised in environments that taught calm as a strength. We were taught to speak louder to be heard. We were taught to fight fire with fire. We were taught that silence means you're giving up, and calm means you're not passionate. But that's just noise. Calm doesn't mean you're not passionate. It means you're not reckless. It means you've got the discipline to feel deeply and still choose clarity over chaos. It means you can be fully aware of what's happening, the tension, the disrespect, the misunderstanding, and not let it hijack your response. That's not passive. That's powerful. Because when you stay calm, you stay in control, and not just of the situation, but of yourself. You stop letting other people write your emotional script. You stop giving your energy away to people who haven't earned it. And most importantly, you show everyone around you what real power looks like. Calm changes the room. It's contagious. People feel it when you walk in. They notice the difference when you're not rattled by small things. They see how you pause before you speak, how you respond instead of react. Even if they don't say it out loud, they feel safer around you, more grounded, more trusting. That's influence. See, anybody can lead when things are easy. But when pressure shows up, when tempers flare and the stakes are high, that's when real leadership kicks in. That's when calm becomes your superpower. Because calm doesn't just protect your peace. It sets the tone for everyone else. And here's the truth. People want someone to set the tone. They want someone steady, someone who doesn't freak out, someone who doesn't escalate conflict just because they can't. Whether it's your family, your team, your partner, people are watching how you respond, and your calm gives them permission to stay grounded too. Now let me be clear. Choosing calm doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. This isn't about silence in the face of disrespect. It's about clarity in the middle of emotion. You can speak up with calm. You can draw boundaries with calm. You can hold someone accountable without raising your voice once. In fact, when you do it from a place of calm, it hits harder. Because now you're not reacting, you're responding with purpose. That's the shift. Because when you lose your calm, you give someone else the steering wheel. You let the moment dictate your response. But when you keep your composure, you stay in the driver's seat. You decide what energy you bring, what words you use, and how much power the moment really deserves. I've seen calm turn enemies into allies. I've seen calm diffuse arguments that could have exploded. I've seen calm keep someone's dignity intact when they had every reason to lose it. Because calm isn't about how things look. It's about knowing who you are, even when things get loud. And the best part, you don't have to wait for the right conditions to choose it. Calm isn't something that shows up when life gets easier. It's something you practice right in the middle of the storm. One breath at a time, one pause at a time, one choice at a time. So when life gets loud, when people get messy, when your peace is tested, remember this: calm isn't weakness, it's control.